Hello boys and girls and welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about adding integers. So adding integers is our title. That needs to go on the top of your notes, and then the date, just like we've been doing every other time we've done notes, alright? And remember that integers are any counting number that are positive or negative. So another word for counting number is any whole number that is positive or negative. So 1, 2, 3, 4, those are all integers. And also -1, -2, -3, -4, those are integers too. Our objective for today is I will be able to add integers. So by the end of this video, you're going to have a beginning understanding of how to add integers together. Alright, so our first vocabulary word, so on the left side of that line, is the additive inverse, or opposites. Okay, so two numbers that when you add together, they equal 0. So our example is the additive inverse of 3 is -3. And we can prove that because when you write it out, 3 plus -3 is equal to 0. Now we can illustrate that on the number line. So we have positive 3 right here, and we're going to add -3. So because it's a negative number, we're going to go to the left. 1, 2, 3. And we get 0, just like it says here. So we are talking about adding negative numbers. So 3 plus -3 is equal to 0, and that is called the additive inverse. Just a review about absolute value is our second vocabulary word. This is a review from earlier this year and from other years too. Absolute value is a number's distance from 0 on a number line. Distance from 0. So unlike the additive inverse, it's always going to be positive. This absolute value of a number is always positive. So our example is -4 is equal to 4. So on the number line, we have -4, and we want to know what's the distance from -4 to 0. So the distance is 1, so you go 1, 2, 3, 4. It's positive 4. Distance is always, 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 always positive. So when we're adding integers, there's two rules that we have to follow. So addition rule number 1, when the signs are the same, you add and keep the sign. So think about when we add numbers, the counting numbers that we've been doing since you started learning how to add. So preschool, kindergarten, first grade. So if we were to say 2 plus 4, you guys would always tell me that it's 6. You'd probably be like, duh, Miss Sandwich, it's 6. Okay, so the same thing, the signs were the same, positive 2 plus positive 4. Now in this example here, we have -2 plus -4. So it's the same thing when the signs are the same, so negative plus a negative, the signs are the same, we add and keep the sign. So -2 plus -4, so we add them together, 2 plus 4 is 6, and we keep the sign. So -2 plus -4 is -6. We can illustrate that on the number line by pointing our plot at -2. We want to add -4, so we want to go to the left because we're adding -4, negative number, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So it is equal to -4. Or I'm sorry, -6. We added -4 and it equals -6. So a negative plus a negative is equal to a negative. The addition rule number 2 is when the signs are different, you're going to subtract and keep the sign of the integer with the greatest absolute value. So here's our first example, -2 plus 4 is equal to +2. So when the signs are different, subtract. So we have a negative plus a positive. So they're different, so what we do when they're different, we think in our heads, what's 4 minus 2? That equals 6. And then we ask ourselves, what's the absolute value? Keep the sign of the integer with the greatest absolute value. So the absolute value of -2 is 2. The absolute value of 4 is 4. Which one's bigger? The 4. The 4 has a positive sign in front of it. So that means, oh my goodness, 4 minus 2 is not 6. 4 plus 2 is 6. I'm sorry, change that. You're probably like, what? 4 minus 2 is 2. There we go. So, as I was saying, 4 has the greatest absolute value. That's a positive number, so 4 minus 2 is positive 2. And the same thing, if we had the same problem with 2 plus negative 4 is equal to negative 2. So we still have to do, they're different, so we still got to subtract. And we still get 2. The absolute value of positive 2 is 2. The absolute value of negative 4 is 4. Which one's bigger? The 4 is. What's the 4 sign? The negative. So it is a negative number. Negative answer. That's how we get negative 2. I'm going to illustrate the second one on the number line. So we started off with positive 2. We added negative 4. So we got to go to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's our answer, negative 2. So a little way that we can remember those rules, and don't worry, I'm going to have you sing this in class too, so maybe practice it at home, and we'll remember it together. All right, so we're going to sing this song to the tune of Row, Row, Row Your Boat. So I'm sure all of you know Row, Row, Row Your Boat. So same signs add and keep, different signs subtract. Keep the sign of the higher number, then it will be exact. So that's just a way that we can remember those two rules that I just said. And we will practice this more and more and more. But I want you to try to memorize that. All right, so now we're going to do some examples. So we have negative 4 plus positive 8. So a negative plus a positive. So the signs are different. So that means we have to subtract. So 8 minus 4. 8 minus 4, and you should be doing this with me in your notes. 8 minus 4 is 4. And now we think, which absolute value is bigger? Is 4 bigger or is 8 bigger? I hope all of you say 8. So positive 4 is our answer. So negative 4 plus 8 is positive 4. Question or example number 2 is negative 1 plus negative 3. So we have a negative plus a negative. So with same signs, we add. So 1 plus 3 is equal to 4. And we keep the sign, right? We keep the sign. So it's negative 4. Okay, so now we have 5 plus negative 7. 5 plus negative 7. So, because they're different signs, we got to subtract. So 7 minus 5, which is equal to 2. Now the absolute value, the greatest absolute value, so 5 versus 7, which one's greater? 7. The sign in front of the greater number is negative, so it's negative 4. Negative 4 is our answer. And then last but not least, we have negative 197 plus 276. So the signs are different. So what do we have to do? We have to subtract. So 276 minus 197. So we have to borrow because you can't take away 7 from 6. So we get 16. There we go. Sorry about that little mix up. 16 minus 7 is 9. 6 minus 9, we can't do that, so we have to borrow. 16 minus 9 is 7. And 1 minus 1 is 0. So the answer is 79. Take the absolute value, so 197 or versus 276. Which one's bigger? 276. So our answer is 79. Does anybody have any questions that you have You need to write this down. Any questions that you have, we're going to write it down so then you can go over it with me at the beginning of class when I ask for questions. Remember that you have to have 2 questions for me written at the end of your notes. You have to have 2 questions. I don't want to keep docking points off because you forget those 2 questions. So anything about this content, so maybe something you're confused about, maybe something that you want me to clarify, any question that's relevant to what we're doing right now. So thank you for being active listeners. I look forward to working with you more in class about adding integers.